We continue our Core 52, looking at how we can raise our Bible IQ, how we can learn more about who God is and what God has done and our place in it. If you are familiar, we have a Wednesday night class that we share on Zoom where Mike Donahue and Jan Swinney continue to astound me with the information that they continue to bring to that class beyond things that I've studied and what I'm able to share with you and what are in the book. So if you've got an opportunity to join us on Wednesday nights, we encourage you to do so. Words of wisdom. Our culture is obsessed with words of wisdom. Look at the bookstore. Notice how large the self-help section is. There's a book about how to succeed in just about everything. 5 steps to losing weight. 5 steps to a better love life. 5 steps to getting a promotion. 5 steps to inner peace. It always seems like there's 5 steps. Why is that? Is that a magical number or something? You watch television, you look at Dr. Phil, you look at Dr. Oz, and their shows are just off the charts popular. People tune in to hear some of that self-help guru promotion. Most of the wisdom literature, what we call wisdom literature, comes in the form of a proverb, a short saying that gives you a fast tip on living the good life. Little blurbs, things that you can memorize, just a sentence or two here and there. Some of them are direct nuggets of wisdom. Some of them are in the form of riddles. When I was doing my research this week, these are some great ones that I found on the internet. So you can take these for what they're worth. Yeah. Don't sweat the petty things. And don't pet the sweaty things. That's right. Men are from earth, women are from earth. Deal with it. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach him how to fish and he'll sit in a boat and drink beer all day. Some of the riddles that we are left to ponder. If all the world is a stage, then where does the audience sit? Think about that one. If you ate pasta and antipasta, do they cancel each other out and you're still hungry? I love that one. That one's hilarious to me. If you try to fail and succeed, which have you done? Think, yeah, I'm trying to fail, but I succeeded at that, so, man. Deep thoughts, I know. Deep thoughts with Brother Dave. That's, me just simply trying to help and pass along some wisdom to you kind folks. Help you to be better people, and trust me, you're all better people for having heard that part of the sermon this morning. But here's one that may actually bring some intelligence to our conversation. And I think I may have...
It's me.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Here we go. That one there. The Washington Monument is 555 feet tall. Keep that in mind as we talk about this next point. Someone estimated that if all of man's accumulated knowledge from the beginning of recorded history until 1845 were represented by 1 inch, about that much, what we learned from 1845 to 1945, a 100-year span, will be 3 inches. We tripled our knowledge. If we took what we learned from 1945 until 1975, 30-year span, it would not only be 3 inches, it would be the height of the Washington Monument. 6,660 inches tall. That is a 220,000% gain. Well, if I put $1 on that years ago, I could retire. By 1975, that number had again almost tripled. Or from 1975 until current, that number is almost tripled. 660,000% gain in knowledge and information. Isn't that incredible? In 30, 40 years, we've tripled our knowledge from 1975. That is amazing. And I ask the question, if we look at all these incredible leaps in the scientific world, the technological world, and all these other advances, it means that there must be an incredible leap in wisdom as well. That our wisdom has gone off the chart at 660,000% gain. I got a lot of people shaking their heads, oh no, and they're smirking. No, that's not true. And the sad truth is, that is not true. We have access to more knowledge at our fingertips than any generation that has come before us. You want to know what the color of an onyx stone is in the northeastern part of Australia? You Google that, you collect that, and it will show you that rock. And it will show you the differences between that stone and the stone that's found on the western side of Australia, or one that's found in Africa, or one that's found anywhere else, because we just have information overload at our fingertips. We are deluged with information. Now,
Google will tell you how big the Bible-lands are compared to Texas.
it sure did this morning, didn't it? Yes, it is. If you've got your Bible, speaking of Bibles, if you go ahead and pull those out, we're going to take a look this morning in Proverbs. We're going to start with Proverbs 1. We're going to stay there because there's enough information there in the first 6 or 7 verses to keep us busy for a lifetime. But we're going to start there. And Proverbs is one of these things that we call wisdom literature. There are 5 books in the wisdom literature. But starting out, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. That is our main topic of discussion today. But when we look at wisdom literature, we look at Job, we look at Psalms. Although the Psalms are divided up into several different categories, there is a lot of wisdom literature in the Psalms. And so it's not exclusively wisdom literature, but there's a lot of wisdom there. When we look at Proverbs, this is what we're going to look at today, Ecclesiastes and the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. Those are what the Hebrew people and what scholars around the world would call the wisdom literature. If you read those particular books in the Bible, your wisdom is supposed to be challenged. You are supposed to gain wisdom from the knowledge that is set forth there. And these 5 books fall into 3 different categories, but the one that I want to talk about today is called General Optimistic Truisms. Y'all didn't think an old boy from Kentucky could even pronounce that, did you? General Optimistic Truisms. What that means is it's a true statement that is supposed to bring an optimistic outlook into your life. If you follow these things, good things will happen to you. That's what the book of Proverbs is all about. If you read them, it's full of principles, and when you follow them, if you follow them to what it says there, about 90% of the time, your life and things in your life are going to work out great. I would take that, wouldn't you? 90% of the time, things working out great, things working out right. I would take that and only have to deal with 10% of my life being maybe a little out of whack, out of character, because I know I've got the other 90% to rely on. The book of Proverbs, written by Solomon. We've talked about Solomon already this morning, who was the king of Israel, son of King David. And some commentators say that these Proverbs are collections of wise sayings that David gave to Solomon as a young man. Some commentators say that this is part of the wisdom that when Solomon asked God for wisdom, this is what he got. And so he wrote these things down for us. Either way, I think it's probably something good for us to follow, don't you? Whether it's from King David or whether it's directly from God through the Holy Spirit, I want to follow what's in these Proverbs. I want to study them. I want to look at them. I want to take a big old handful of them and just bring them close to me and keep them close. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask myself a couple of questions. When I think about wisdom literature, I want to know, and what is wisdom? What is wisdom? And the second question we'll get to in a minute is, how do we get it? Proverbs, let's start out reading Proverbs chapter 1. We're going to read verses 1 through 6. What is wisdom? Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. And the question is implied here. What are these Proverbs for? What are these writings for? What are you telling this to us for? It is for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair. The Proverbs are for giving prudence to those who are simple. The Proverbs are for knowledge and discretion to the young. The Proverbs let the wise listen and add to their learning, and they let the discerning get guidance. The Proverbs are for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. I like how the Message reads that. And I have that right here. The Message reads this way when we look at Proverbs 1 through 6. These are the wise sayings of Solomon, David's son, the king, Israel's king, written down so you'll know how to live well and right, to understand what life means and where it's going. This is a manual for living. It's a manual for learning what's right and what's just and what's fair. These Proverbs to teach the inexperienced the ropes and give our young people a grasp on reality. There's something here also for seasoned men and women. Still a thing or two for the experienced to learn. Fresh wisdom to probe and penetrate the rhymes and reasons of wise men and women. Let's walk through these verses for a minute. When we talk about what is wisdom, the Proverbs are written out in what we call parallelism. Usually one little sentence that's followed up by a second sentence. The first sentence will give you a truism. The second one will either say the same thing a different way, or it will show you the exact opposite. Don't put, the first truism, don't put all your eggs in one basket. The second one would be, because you may drop the basket and all your eggs are dropped. All your eggs are broken. Or it could be, something else. But they go hand in hand. They parallel one another. The second sentence always backs up the first sentence of the proverb. We call that a parallelism. They repeat each other. Same idea, but differently. And the word that they use here for learning may be translated the word know in your Bible. It's the word yada. Anybody ever heard that word before? Yada, yada, yada. I think it was a Yiddish term for just whatever. You just keep talking. All you're doing is talking. But in the Hebrew language, for the Hebrews, when they saw this, they saw the word yada. They meant, to them, when we think of the word know, we think about 660,000% gain in knowledge. We think about facts and figures and colors and shapes and styles. We think about information. But when the Hebrew heard the word yada, it was more like the relationship between a husband and a wife. As the husband knew his wife and they would bear children. Yada, to the Hebrew listener, to the Hebrew reader, drew on an intimacy. He's saying here that if you want to be intimate with things that are life understanding, things of parable, things in life that will make your life easier, things in life that will make your life less complicated. If you want things in your life that will draw you closer to God, then be intimate with what I'm saying. Take it inside, dwell on it, pray on it. And not just look at it and say, yep, that's nice. Actually live it. To be intimate with that. And then the word wisdom here is the word skill. Shakma, I believe is how it's pronounced. Skill. When I was growing up, there were many things that I learned from my dad. One of the things I did not learn from him was how to work on cars. My dad was an amazing auto mechanic. There wasn't a nut and bolt on the car from front to back, top to bottom, that he didn't know what it was for, what its purpose was, how it was designed, and what would happen if that particular piece of the automobile was gone. He would also look at it and say, well, maybe I can fix it a little bit better so that it operates even better. under certain circumstances. My dad was a race car driver. He was always tinkering with stuff, welding this, cutting here, welding back, making it stronger and stiffer so that it would take that corner that he was going into. He knew every nut and bolt on that car, inside and out. And he tried to teach old Dave how to work on a car. Simple things, like changing the tire, change the oil, put new windshield wiper blades on. Things like that everybody should know how to do. And I don't know if it was just a problem with me as a youth, or maybe it's just a form of rebellion. But whenever my dad would start talking about cars and how to maintain them and how to build them and things how they went together, I just turned that off. I didn't want to hear it. It was years later when I was married and had children of my own that I was able to finally learn how to work on a car for my father-in-law. My father-in-law was a mechanical genius. There's just no two ways about that. He's designed and built things that nobody said could be designed and built. He's gone around the United States, and his products are around the world in different areas, things that he designed and built that are helping people. And working alongside him, he was also a master mechanic, a master electrician. Again, there was no bolt or nut on a car that he didn't know what it was for and how to design it, make it better. And so he took me alongside of him and he showed me how to recognize some things, how to work on some things, how to do some things. And I thought that was just the greatest and coolest thing ever. And I developed skills of my own because of somebody else's wisdom. Now, I have a lot of regrets in my life. I regret not being able to. I regret that I didn't take the opportunity to work closer with my dad in those situations because he had a gift that he wanted to impart to one of his sons. I wasn't going to listen. That wasn't very wise of me. That was not wise at all. Matter of fact, that was rather foolish of me not to take advantage of the information that he had. When my father-in-law came along, I was at a place in my life where, hey, I want to take in these things. I want to have the skill that when I open the hood of the car, or I can turn it on and listen to it, I can hear and diagnose what may be wrong with that car. Wisdom is a skill. It's taking all that knowledge that you've got and putting it into practice. Taking all that knowledge you've got and putting it into practice. Wisdom is a skill. Wisdom is a skill in successful living. If you want to be successful in this life, listen to the people who know more than you do, both in knowledge matters and in terms of wisdom. If I want to know how to play the guitar, I'm not just going to say, well, I'll just grab the guitar and I'm going to go. I'm not going to go listen to somebody who doesn't know how to play guitar. I want to listen to someone who knows how to play the guitar. I listen to Joel. I listen to Mark. I find out the different acoustic things about guitars. I find out the different things about the chords, the actual strings that go on there and the structure and how they're twined together and how when you strum them together they can make a harmony. That's wisdom. Wanting to seek out how to be successful in life. And it doesn't just apply to music, it applies to every facet of your life. If you want to know how to do and you fill in the blank, seek out someone who is successfully doing that. Follow what they're doing. That is wisdom. That is where you gain your skills. That is successful living. And we asked the second question. It's a lot deeper question. How do we get wisdom? How do we get it? Verse 7 tells us, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. This verse is pretty much the thesis statement for all of Proverbs. Everything that's going to come after this points to this verse right here. This is why I'm writing this. I want you to understand that all this knowledge, all this wisdom that I'm getting ready to impart to you will mean nothing without the first part of verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And it poses two kinds of people who are in conflict with one another. There's the wise person who fears the Lord, and then there's the fool who doesn't. And that also raises two really uncomfortable questions for me. First, are we really supposed to be afraid of God? And second, I thought that Jesus said we shouldn't call anyone a fool. So why does the Bible? Well, let's take a look at the second one first. Let's look at the fool first. The Hebrew word is, can anybody tell me what that word is? Evil. Evil. That's where we get our word evil from. A fool is evil. I think that's funny. I think that's some of God's humor there. The fool in Proverbs is any person who rejects God's ways and refuses to listen. That's what evil is. Someone who refuses to listen to God is, by definition, by God's definition, not mine, an evil person. They also may be an ignorant person. They may not know about God and reject His word. But if they know who God is, they've had access to who God is, they've had access to the Word of God, and they refuse to listen to it, to adhere to it, to abide to it, that person is evil. That person is foolish. In the same way that I had access to my father's knowledge on how to work on cars, and I rejected that, in that moment I was foolish. I was evil. And then we come across a word called yara. That's the word fear. Fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. Yara. It comes with several different connotations, three mainly that are proposed in the Bible. One is called dread and terror. We looked at that a little bit this morning in our class on Joshua. The kings, as they saw the Israel army approach and cross into the land, they were overcome with great fear so that their heart melted. Dread, terror. Moses encouraged the Israelites over in Exodus chapter 20, verses 18 through 20, to not fear. He said he informed that God revealed Himself in such a terrifying manner. God was trying to scare them into not sinning. He wanted them to shake in their boots. It says, God has come to test you, and that His fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. They were worried that being in the presence of God, He was going to wipe them out. Well, that's kind of the way God wanted to play it. I want you to understand how powerful I am. I want you to be afraid of my power. So much to the point that you refuse to sin. Wouldn't that work? Shouldn't that work well in our lives today? We call ourselves sons and daughters of God. We call ourselves followers of Jesus Christ. And yet so many of us are out there, as soon as we leave the building, we're sinning with the best of them. Because we're not afraid of our loving and gracious and kind and merciful God. We have no fear of retribution for our sins and what they may cause. There's another one. Another definition means to stand in awe. It's being in the presence of a king. We saw that with Joshua this morning as well. Joshua, knowing that he was in the presence of the commander of the Lord's army, prostrated himself, sat down, kneeled down, bowed before this superior being. So when we talk about fear, when we talk about yara, we're talking about standing in awe of who is in front of us. And in another term, it's to revere, to respect our parents. We find that over in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 3. I have a healthy respect for my parents now that I am a parent of my own. So for some 24, 25 years, I've been a parent. I'm just now beginning to understand what it was my mother went through with me and my brother. I hope your children are not docile, but I hope your children are submissive and respectful to you. I certainly was not. I had no fear of my parents. I had no healthy respect for my parents. And now that I see what they sacrificed, with the things that they went through for me and my brother, oh my goodness, I bow in reverence to my mom whenever I see her now. I want to wash and kiss her feet and thank her. It seems like to me there was a story of a young lady in the New Testament who understood her level of sin. And when she encountered Jesus, a person who could forgive sin, her king, she bowed at his feet and cried on his feet and wiped the tears away with her hair, out of reverence, out of fear, out of respect for Jesus. When we look at the book of Proverbs, fear is a predominant theme here. It's a word that occurs time and time again. It's the beginning of knowledge, chapter 1, verse 7. Fear will cause one to hate evil, will cause one to hate foolishness, over in chapter 8, verse 13. Fear will help you prolong your life. If that's not true, go walk out in the traffic. Step out here on 183 right now. No fear. You're not going to do it because you're afraid you're going to get run over. It helps you prolong your life. That's in chapter 10, verse 27. According to 14, 26, and 27, fear provides strong confidence. It's a fountain of life. Proverbs 16:6 says it prompts one to depart from evil. It prompts one to depart from foolishness and foolish ways and foolish people. Fear leads to a satisfying life. It spares one from much evil, much foolishness. Fear is a way to riches and honor and life. Proverbs 22, verse 4. And so if we don't have a fear of the Lord, if we don't have a fear of anything, we deprive ourselves of God's treasures. I'm persuaded. We deprive ourselves of God's wisdom. We deprive ourselves of God's knowledge. If we have no fear of the Lord, we're not going to listen to Him, are we? I'm not. I'm going to flirt with evil. I'm going to be corrupted by it. Evil, sin, foolishness. And my life is likely to be shortened by my refusal to heed God's word. Famous last words of a Kentucky hillbilly. Hey, y'all, watch this. It's true. I have no fear. If I'm not tapped into God's wisdom, I have no fear. Without the fear, we won't come to know God's love. We won't know that He will give us assurances, that He will give us a confidence in our salvation if we have no fear of Him. And when we fall into sin, if we have no fear of Him, we won't be inspired or motivated to repent and to turn back to God. So it seems to me that fear of the Lord should be highly regarded and sought after. I think maybe the best way to understand that relationship with God is like a healthy relationship between a child and a parent. When we talk about fearing God, what is the ultimate goal of a parent for the child? Well, if you got 3 boys like we do, just get through this part of your life alive. But the parent hopes that the child will one day grow to a mature adult with whom the parent can be a friend. That they can have conversations as equals. When the child is a toddler, is that the case? Are you equal with the toddler? No. The role of the parent is to be this very large creature who is equal parts loving, comfort, and disciplinarian. When the precious little child looks up at you and willfully puts her hand in the cookie jar, when you said no, does the parent say, "Oh, look how cute she is and she defies me. She thinks she's smarter than me. Isn't that precious? Go ahead, honey." No. There's a certain amount of fear involved in a parent's instruction. Why? Why should we fear our parents? Why should we fear the Lord? Because when a child is running toward the street, unaware that a car is coming, and the child doesn't know to stop when the parent says stop, and the child is used to getting their own way, then when the parent says stop and the child defies that instruction and goes into the street, bad things are going to happen. When we, as adults, don't listen to the voice of God, don't know God's word, don't know God's laws, and we are not putting those things into skill, we are no different when He tells us no than that child that runs out in the street. And we rush headlong into destruction, and our destruction is eternal. Because that destruction is sin. We rush headlong into sin. Without a fear of the Lord, we will do whatever we want. If I'm a liar, somebody strike me down. Without a fear of God, we will do whatever we want. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And if we want to become truly wise people, skilled in the ways of God, skilled in ways that lead to life, then we must begin with a simple truth. God is God. We are not. I am not the source of truth and wisdom. You are not the source of truth and wisdom. I am not the author and sustainer of my life. Neither are you the author and sustainer of your life. God is. God is. And His ultimate goal is for a friendship to exist. The same as our goals as parents is to have a friendship with our children because we've raised them, we've instilled in them, we've given them knowledge, we've shared with them the wisdom, and we've helped them mold their lives and to be wise, acting people. And then we can be friends with them. That's not to say that we still don't have instructions to share, because look at what he says back over here. He said that even in verse 5, let the wise listen. Those who already have wisdom, listen, because there's still things for you to learn. There's still things for you to learn to be able to share. You know, I thought that my role as a parent was going to be over when they were 18. 18, graduated high school, out the door, I'm done. Brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you, I think it's even harder now in this portion of their life, trying to guide them into being productive citizens. Trying to help them recall those things and the seeds that were planted all those years ago. I see a crack in some of my boys now, especially when we sing and say prayers with our granddaughter as she goes to bed. And she's grown to the point where it's a habit for her. When we say it's bedtime, first word out of her mouth is prayers. She wants to go say prayers. And we'll start our prayer by saying, God our Father in heaven. And the other night, without prompting, she said, God in heaven.
Praise God.
Talk about melting my heart. She gives us the hugs and kisses, tells us night-night. And then she goes off to dream. And in her dreams, I'm praying that God is protecting her. That whatever evil, foolish things of the day that may have come out of my mouth or the mouth of those around her, God will wash that away. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And God's ultimate goal is for friendship. Jesus taught us that. But He said that any friendship with God, like any child or parent, must first begin with a healthy awe and respect. So when we talk about fear, it's a healthy awe and respect. Jesus said that anyone who hears His words, this is the most important word in that sentence, and acts on them, is like one who has built his house on the rock. Y'all just thought we were singing a nonsensical child's song this morning, didn't you? And it says that rock, that house, will withstand the storms of life. But the fool is the one who hears and does not act. That house is built on the sand. and it gets washed away. These are the wise sayings of Solomon, David's son, Israel's king. Written down so we'll know how to live well and right. So that we'll know how to understand what life means and where it's going. This is written down as a manual for living, for learning what's right and just and fair. Not according to what I think is right and just and fair, but what God says is right and just and fair. These things are written down to teach the inexperienced the ropes, give our young people a grasp on reality. These things are written down to give our next generation an opportunity to learn what wisdom is. There's also something here for seasoned men and women, still a thing or two for the experienced to learn. Fresh wisdom to probe and penetrate the rhymes and reasons of wise men and women. To gain wisdom, start with God. Through the Apostle James, or maybe I can't remember, it's in James, I know, they said, you don't have because you don't ask. If you were to ask for wisdom, you would get wisdom. Start with God. The first step in learning is bowing down to God. Only fools thumb their noses at such wisdom and learning. God, I hear you, but whatever. That's what the foolish man says. God, I hear you. I don't want to follow you. That's what the wise man says. That's what the wise woman says. You want wisdom? Start with God. Let's sing that song one more time. Melissa, I want to turn this back over to you. Let's sing The Wise Man Built His House Upon the Rock. We'll offer that as an invitation song. We're going to ask you to stand as we sing that. And think about wisdom in your life. Are you pursuing it? Are you ignoring it? Are you running away from it? Or do you not even recognize it? Start with God. Ask God for wisdom. Ask God for understanding. We're going to sing this song.